Hey, today we are going to revisit the idea of losing and losses. I'm
That's right.
Keith.
I'm Rodney. This here is the Daily Chronicle. This is where Keith and I talk about wins, losses, all the things that happen in our, not all the things, many of the things that happen in our days that affect business, the multiple jobs that we have, the families that we have, and leaving a record for our daughters. So we're going to talk about losses. I think we're going to talk about one of my losses today.
Yeah, because you wanted to bring this back up. You said in our last video we left a lot on the table. So
We did. And
yeah.
so there was more from that, but more recently, my football team lost a Super Bowl, and it's been a long. That's been a years long process for me, dealing with my football team losing, and I'm actually in a really good place. I was even during the game in a good place. My sister made a comment in a family text like, "Oh, I wonder what Rod's energy is right now because the Niners started losing," and I was like, "No, I'm good." And it wasn't just like I'm good, like don't mess with me. Like it was actually I'm good because I've done a lot of work and specifically taken a lot of time away from my team at points in order to kind of dissociate myself from that win loss and really prioritize what the importance for me was in the wins and losses of a thing that I like. So yeah, that's kind of what I was
The
thinking.
sports losses are an interesting component because we talk about the cynic infinite game, right? And it is
Simon
the
Sinek.
it is the application of a finite loss in a finite game to negatively impact our infinite game, right? Like the grand scheme of that loss is next year I'll be able to watch football again, right? And okay, this season's over. It's a drag, and we all take like, listen, you're talking about a diehard football fan when it comes to my team, and I'm a Patriots fan, as we all know. And when they lost to the Titans in the playoffs this year, like I've actually followed your journey on this because, I mean, before kids especially, like that stuff would torpedo me for weeks.
I
Like
mean,
when they
we had
lost in
rules. We had rules
'07.
like don't reach out to Keith for a couple of days
Yeah,
after a loss. Likewise, definitely
yeah.
don't reach out during a game. Like, don't talk to me.
No, I don't want
That's
to talk to
that's
you.
what it,
Don't
that's
bring
what it
up
was.
football. Don't mention it. Like all that stuff it's so antisocial. It's so, and I understand it emotionally, but at the same time, for me personally, it's so detrimental to a positive mindset on a day in the moment that it just like, yes, it
Which
bums me out
which
that the Patriots weren't in the playoffs afterwards. Like when I'm watching football and I'm watching your team play, I'm like,
yeah.
man, like I
Well,
wish the Patriots were in it,
That's the
right?
point I want to talk about on this because so here's where the shift happened for me. Um, the question I had to ask myself is how am I showing up, and is it the man I want to be or I see myself as?
Yes.
And the answer was emphatically no. Like when my wife's like, I can't even talk to you during a 49ers football game, or friends are like, yeah, we know not to hit you up during a game or after a game, or I've kicked a friend out of a game, out of my house because of a comment he made. We're both 49ers fans, but he made a comment that I found unacceptable and I kicked him out of my house.
Really? I
Oh
didn't even
yeah,
know this. Yeah.
yeah. That's probably the number one incident.
Uh-huh.
But it was just like, is that me? Like, oh, am I to the point where I want to let a game that I'm not playing? And this is not an indictment on anybody else. This is not
Totally.
about anybody else. This is 100%
Totally.
about me, Rodney
Yeah.
Campbell. Do I want to let the outcome of some game that I have nothing to do with other than a like of a team affect how I treat people in my daily life? And
Right.
the answer was no. I
Right.
don't.
Right.
So I had to reframe. I took a couple of years off of watching football. I had to step
You
away
did.
and I reset my perspective on what's a win and what's a loss. And what's what does it mean when the 49ers win? Cool. They got a W in the column. What does it
Yeah.
mean when they got an L? They got an L. Like,
Yeah.
and I can talk about it. I still evaluate it, like what phases of the game were good and bad and blah 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 and coaching decisions. Like I have those conversations. I
Sure.
just am no longer so wrapped up in them that I can't have a conversation with my friends that are Seahawks fans or that are Chiefs fans. In fact, I just met a Chiefs fan yesterday at the hospital. We shared a room. He's like, are they messing with us? I was like, nah, man, it's all good. It was a good game. Like, I went
No, and
it's
one of those interesting things. I know for me is like I've also reevaluated it, and I never took the time away. Enjoy the emotional attachment I have towards it. Right? I enjoy the positives so much that the dogs love it too. I enjoy the positives about it. I don't need the negatives about it, right? So it's not the positives of winning; it's the positives of feeling an attachment to this thing,
Yep.
and ultimately bringing it to a place where if they lose, yeah, it's a drag. But to your point, I don't want it to affect how I treat the people in my life. And if they win, I don't want that to be a contribution to how I like. That's the whole redefining winning and losing. Like, they're winning a finite game does not mean I'm winning my infinite game in that week following that win, right?
Yeah,
like
that's a really important frame. Like,
I need to be I'm in my own game that has no real bearing on. And it's a good community thing. It's sports, it's jabbing, it's jarring, it's having fun. It's not, I hate you because you are rooting for the team that just beat my team.
And the last thing I say, because I'm gonna have to go here, is, it's helping the reset on this for me has helped me reframe and understand riding the energy waves of the wins and the losses from my team, instead of getting really high, like, hey, they just beat the Saints, and like really low, they just lost to the Chiefs. It's more like, yeah, they won, they lost. I can honor it. It happened. It's a thing. I may have an emotional feeling about it, but it doesn't have to become me. And I can continue on. Like, it doesn't affect the fact that I'm going to go do some things later today. Like, I can still do those things. So, yeah.
All right.
But that's my journey. Question. How do you feel about losses? How do you feel about losses? All right.
All right. Late.